Hi there. Wanted to make a video on an update on the kart. Last video I made, I think my next hope was that I was going to be able to test drive this thing, and kind of had a change of direction since then, and I'll show you all kind of where I'm at this point. But the issue I was having was actually with that motor. I had that 18 horsepower V-twin Briggs on it, and you know, I struggled to get it running right. It seems to me like it could be carburetor related. I still think it is. After some internet searches, kind of found that it's going to kind of be costly to get a new carburetor, and I at this point in time just haven't found a rebuild kit for this motor yet. But in the meantime, I wanted to keep things moving forward, and I ended up having a 420 that I picked up for a future project, and I ended up throwing it on here. Now, just to, like I said, just to keep moving forward with this project, and so that's what's on it, 420. So sorry for the old bait and switch here. I have ridden this thing briefly with this motor. Not too much had to be done to put the engine on it. Little bit of modification on the motor plate. Of course, the 40 series converter bolted right up, and I think that's the right choice to use for the 420. I think. I know it's not a clutch that's going to be lacking in ability for a 420. I think it works just fine on this on this 13 horsepower engine. So today I'm working on getting rid of this old steering member that I had on here. Previous video I noted that was something I wanted to address. It was a steering front member off of a riding lawnmower that had been stretched and made to work on this thing. Problem was, it was just a dry spindle, and the old riding lawnmower, you know, all it had was some some grease fittings in there to keep it lubed up. And low speed, I think that would have been just fine, but for a go-kart I decided I need to upgrade and go with some bearing front wheels. So that's what I'm working on today. I ended up ordering a spindle kit, just a 5/8 size spindle. This particular one has the springs in the front. I don't know what to expect out of this. I've never had anything like that before. I can tell you that when I did ride this kart briefly, it was obviously without suspension. It felt really bumpy. Hoping that those soak up a little bit of that, but here again, you get what you get when you have a kart without suspension. So I ended up going to the local steel distributor and picking me up a variety of small dimension lightweight steel. Found me this piece of I think it's 1x3 to weld up these spindles to, and I think it was the right choice. It seems to work just perfectly width wise, and I think it's tall enough to support, you know, the majority of that knuckle there. But I got to finish welding that up. One thing I found out along the way is when I was figuring out how to set up these spindles, if I would have just had a straight cut on the end of this member right here and tried butt welding this spindle mount right to my frame member, then it would have actually, I would have had an issue with this piece right here actually contacting this upon turning. And so the way I thought of to overcome that was to miter this frame member, and then that way it allowed quite a bit more clearance for this movement to take place, and it's not going to have a problem anymore. See that? But you see, as it goes to a real aggressive angle, and I'll never be turning that aggressive angle. I just won't even have it set up to turn that steep. you can see it does ultimately come in contact with this. So you can kind of see the point I'm making. If this was not mitered, it just, I wouldn't even have been able to turn a little bit, and it would have been making contact with this. So that's kind of something that I learned along the way. I didn't realize I'd have to do that until I got into it. But again, here's that old system I chopped down out of there, and just a bunch of homemade stuff made up of. And one thing I did notice when I was out driving it is, this thing would push a lot into the corners. I really felt like something was not right with it. And I started reading up on steering kind of theory, and I've heard the term Ackerman. And I feel like I was running into issues with this member where it didn't have, any Ackerman built into the steering, which my understanding essentially identifies the differential of angle in one front wheel to the other upon full stop. The inside tire should be turned at more of an angle than the outside tire, just simply because the outside is going to be covering more ground. It's going to be taking more radius, and therefore that tire doesn't need to be turned as steep. So I'm hoping that with this new member up here, it's going to kind of self-correct, and I'm going to be happier with that. But I got a couple different sets of wheels I'm kind of mulling over on what to use for this front end. I got a 5/8 bearing type of wheel, about the same size as those, maybe a little bigger. And then the other design I'm thinking about maybe doing is putting a 4-bolt spin, oh hell, what are they called? Got them over here. There we go. Like a 4-bolt bearing system right on the front. And then that would allow me to use like a little bit bigger rim, I'm finding, or just a different variety of wheel or tire. If I have that 4-bolt set up on there. The good part is I could just quickly swap from one to the other. So I got those 4-bolt wheel bearings to kind of just increase my options there. What I've started with doing is I'm probably going to end up, stubbing this frame, this extension out, about 6 inches, something like that. And then I'll find, my appropriate location, and I would just make sure that's welded up nicely and centered. And from there, I'll probably add a little support in the middle here and there. But using dimension steel right here that's a little bit shorter in height than this, that's going to allow a location for my steering center link to come underneath, right? Once this is welded up, my center link comes off of my steering column. It's going to allow some clearance for it to run underneath and pick these up here. What I've got in mind for that piece, I bought a piece of like 3/4 hollow steel tube, and I'll end up using a piece of all thread probably. I'm going to weld this nut to the end of this tube, and then I'll be able to thread, my all thread into there, leaving, a certain amount sticking out that I can then screw this heim joint onto, thereby giving me, the ability to adjust. And I'll have another stopping nut out here, that I can lock it in place, maybe even a couple in there, so I can get them locked up once I find that appropriate adjustment. So that is where I am at today. It's gonna be what I'm gonna be working on, and as I get things done, I'll make another video and share it with you all. So thanks for watching. Have a great day.